there seems to be simply no end to the humanitarian catastrophe that is unfolding at this moment in the Gaza Strip, as Israel continues to rain down huge amounts of ammunition onto the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Now remember, Israel has also been claiming, at least for the last 15 odd days, that it is preparing the ground for a ground invasion of the Gaza Strip. The world leaders, of course, discussing, negotiating and are trying to come to some kind of an agreement over the wordings of what should be said. Should it be a ceasefire, or should there be some kind of a humanitarian pause to stop the Israeli bombs from falling on the Palestinian territory before some aid can in fact come in? There is no consensus that seems to be workable so far, but the human suffering of the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip continues. The death toll is steadily going up. In the latest, the United Nations Food Agency has said that severe fuel shortages is forcing it to stop supplying emergency food aid to thousands of people in the Gaza Strip. The World Food Programme claims that it provides daily bread supplies to at least about 200,000 people in its shelters. But the fuel shortages have now forced them to shut their supplies to an estimated 150,000 Palestinians who have been turned into refugees in their own lands. This is what collective punishment is. Families across Gaza are searching for their loved ones under the rubble, as Israel continues with its relentless onslaught of bombing neighborhood after neighborhood in the Palestinian territories. In one of the attacks, a Palestinian man was seen writing a farewell message on the shroud of his wife as he held his 8-month-old child in his arms. Meanwhile, about 6 people have been injured after an unidentified drone fell on an Egyptian town on the border with Israel. According to an army spokesperson, the drone reportedly crashed next to a hospital. It is not clear as to how this drone in fact crashed into this Egyptian town bordering Israel. This is the Taba resort town near Israel's border. Now, the IDF claims that its ground forces, backed by fighter jets and drones, carried out yet another nighttime invasion into the Gaza Strip. Now, as part of this, the IDF aircraft and artillery struck several targets that the Israelis claim belong to Hamas. But looking at the collateral, it is difficult to see as to what differentiation Israel at this moment is making when it is targeting buildings. Do they belong to Hamas, or do they belong to the common, everyday, regular civilian people of Palestine? Now, the Israeli Defense Forces have also claimed that they've killed about 3 militants, Hamas militants, who were struck by their fighter jets. Now, these militants reportedly had played some kind of a role in the invasion and the attack that took place on the 7th of October. And according to the IDF, they are considered to be the most significant brigade of Hamas. But remember the death toll in the Palestinian territories. It is 3 names that Israel has now put out that it has killed. But this is the scale of devastation that at this moment is playing out. The United Nations has described this as a humanitarian catastrophe. 2.3 million people have been cut off for over 20 days from access to food, water, electricity and other supplies such as fuel. Now, the Gaza's Health Ministry has said that more than 7,000 Palestinian civilians, people who have got nothing to do with this war, people who have got nothing to do with this politics, have been killed in their homes while they were in their homes and Israel carried out bombings from its air raids. Now, the death toll, in fact, includes more than 3,000 children and at least about 1,500 women. And the Palestinian Health Ministry has also put out the names and identifications of those who've been killed. Speaking of the expected ground offensive, Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has said that it is not far off. He further added that Israel will carry out the operations when the conditions are right in order to strike Hamas. Now, Yoav Gallant has been talking about tensions with Hezbollah on the northern border with Lebanon. He also said that Israel has no interest in expanding the war, but everything that Israel at this moment is doing, he claims, is to going after Hamas. But the fact of the matter is, thousands of innocent Palestinians have also been killed, and the United Nations has described the cutting off of supplies of food, water and electricity as collective punishment that is being inflicted on the people of Gaza.
מלחמה בחזית הדרומית כנגד חמאס. אנחנו מוכנים לכל התפתחות בצפון, חיזבאללה סופג נפגעים רבים, יחד עם זה אין לנו עניין להרחיב את המלחמה. היעד שלנו הוא ניצחון במלחמה והחזרתם של החטופים. התמרון יגיע ולא ירחק היום והוא יקרה. זה יקרה כאשר ייווצרו התנאים המתאימים על מנת להכות את ארגון החמאס, ולאחר שנשלים את משימתנו באש, כאשר הדבר הזה יקרה, אתם תראו אותו ותבינו את עוצמתו.
Well, the Israeli defense minister says that Israel did conduct a military drill close to its border with Lebanon. Clashes with Iran-backed Hezbollah group have been very frequent in the last 3 weeks. More than 40 Hezbollah fighters have reportedly been killed in the borderlands so far, while Israeli military says that 7 of its soldiers have been killed in the fighting that has happened. Remember, a Reuters journalist, photojournalist, was also killed along the Lebanese border in the northern part of Israel because of an Israeli artillery strike. So this is what the situation at this moment is in the Gaza Strip, as Israel continues with its relentless bombardment, which has badly affected the civilian population of Palestine. Libya's parliament has in fact called for the halting of oil exports to those who back Israel. Now, the Libyan parliament has demanded that the Israeli aggression must stop, else the country must move forward with its decision. Meanwhile, aid agencies have accused Israel of using food as a weapon of war. They've accused Israel of using starvation, as not enough aid is entering into the Gaza Strip. Now, organizations such as Oxfam have said that only about 2% of the usual supplies of food have been supplied to the Gaza territory since the border has been shut off since the beginning of this crisis. The United Nations has also said that far fewer supplies have arrived in the past week in Gaza than would normally be delivered. A senior Qatari negotiator has told in an interview that civilians being held hostage by Hamas in Gaza could be released within days. He's also cautioned, however, that any escalation of this conflict could jeopardize those efforts. Diplomacy and negotiations around the war continues, and a senior Hamas delegation traveled to Moscow to meet with the Russian Foreign Ministry officials. Now, this is the organization's first high-profile international visit since its 7th of October attack on Israel. The Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister is in Moscow as well, and the three leaders in fact held a trilateral meeting, as per the pictures that have been posted. The EU leaders met in Brussels on Thursday to discuss the situation in West Asia. In a declaration agreed at a summit, the leaders have expressed the gravest of concerns for the deteriorating humanitarian situation in Gaza. They've also called for at least a pause, if not a ceasefire in the fighting, so that humanitarian aid can be delivered to the civilians who are stuck in this mindless violence that is being perpetrated on them, in which thousands of innocent civilians have been bombed out of their existence. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.